Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sakagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Namavom Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto hi abhadrani Vidunoti Sugaratsatam Ite cham sakala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indriyari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayante Yuge Yuge. So, welcome all to this Saturday morning series on Srimad Bhagavatam. So, in the last class, we talked about life of Naradaji in his earlier days. Now, look at a most important example that you should understand now. Naradaji was a Gandharva who was cursed by a Vaishnava and he fell down. Okay? He fell down as a Sudra in the womb of a servant maid. Right? That means from an exalted position, he's been born to a position where mode of ignorance is more prominent. Sudra. Okay, so this is the first point we have to note. Now, whenever a Vaishnava, a good-hearted Vaishnava, a Vaishnava who's realized, he curses or he instructs or he tells us anything, we have to see that it is going to end up favorably. How many times in Srimad Bhagavatam we have noticed? See, Narada Muni cursed the two brothers, Manikavara and Nalagreva. What happened to them? They became exalted. Right? So you see, in the case of Chitraketu Maharaj, Angira Muni, instructed Chitraketu not to have a child. But the senses of Chitraketu is like, no, I want a child. Don't stop me. He somehow pushed Angira Muni to have a child. But what was the result? The child, when he was born, rather than giving him happiness, it gave more misery. So like that, you can see, wherever it may be, the instructions of a Vaishnava has always helped, whether it's positive or negative. That is the glory of Vaishnava. Now here, Naradaji, what happened to his journey? He was born as a Sudra, then his mother got an opportunity to serve certain rishis, realized rishis who were serving Lord Vishnu. They were good Vaishnavas. She got an opportunity to serve them. So whenever we see an opportunity like that, we have to go serve. Now what happens when we serve? They're very pleased. When they're pleased, whatever they realized in their heart about Krishna, they will transfer that to us. That transfer is so powerful. Even if Lord comes and gives mercy, the Vaishnava's mercy is much more superior and stronger. How? Look at what happened to Narada. That small boy, when he got association with them, he became the great Naradaji. Now, what sort of Naradaji he is? He was delivered with a spiritual body. That means at his own will, he can travel anywhere in the spiritual world and also in the material world. He can come anywhere here and he can instruct anyone. Okay? Not just that, look at his position. He became one of the key associates in the Panchatattva. So who's Panchatattva? Panchatattva is headed by Lord Gauranga Nityananda. But he went on as part of the Panchatattva, the 5 realized truths of spiritual life. So that means once elevation in spiritual life and realization in spiritual life is unlimitedly that one can progress. That is the beauty that you can understand out of this. There's no limit. Okay, I have done my 16 rounds. Now I am Brahminical initiated. I am Sannyasi initiated. I have finished Bhakti Vedanta. I am done. That is not the truth fact. There's unlimitedness in one's progress in spiritual life. There's no boundary. There's no boundary conditions. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, what do we hear? One, by practice of devotion, the Bhakti Lata Bija in the heart sprouts. By continuously watering it with devotion, what happens to Bhakti Lata Bija? It sprouts into a creeper. Okay, it keeps on growing. How long it goes? It penetrates all the 27 layers of this material world, pierces through the sky, and comes out of this material world and crosses the Viraja river and reaches the shell of the Vaikuntha planets and goes beyond, much by beyond, and then can reach the Goloka Vrindavan. Right? So you see, unlimitedly goes. And after it reaches Krishna, the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Bhagavan, it doesn't stop to grow. It enjoys very, very wonderful in-depth transcendental pastimes of the Lord. But if anyone, or the Mali, the gardener, by some means shakes this spiritual Bhakti Lata Bija, the creeper gets destroyed. So, while we progress in spiritual life, we have to also ensure that we don't commit offenses. Okay. The word offense is called aparadha. Right? That's what we commonly use. What is aparadha? Aparadha. That means whatever aradhana that we are doing to perform Radhika, that will get destroyed. Aparadha. So then what happens? That means when we commit offense, the first thing that aparadha does is it displeases Srimati Radha. We may justify our offense, but it definitely displeases Radha. When it displeases Radharani, what happens? Slowly, Krishna becomes far. We cannot realize him. It becomes difficult to reach his lotus feet. So you see, on one side, we take so much of austerity, so much of effort to progress in for love of Godhead. On the other side, we are slowly destroying our own progress by committing offenses. Now, why do offenses get committed? Due to various reasons. We'll not discuss that. In case of Naradaji, there are two behaviors that he demonstrated. One, When he was instructed by his mother to serve the Vaishnavas, he served them nicely. Second, they instructed few things. That's what we're going to read in sloka number 30, 31, 32. So what they instructed is about God consciousness. So he heard them very, very attentively. We hear this sloka, no? Shushusho Shraddhadanasya. What does this mean? Bhakti Yoga Vasudeva Katharuchihi. Why do we repeat this sloka? This sloka tells, if someone is able to hear Bhagavatam with rapt attention, with complete involvement of his heart, then Vasudeva Ruchi is guaranteed. Right? Now, this is the greatest difference. That's what was instructed to Narada, and that's exactly what he did. And then, whatever remnants, that means whatever they ate, they left over, they gave it to this boy. Naradaji ate that. He ate that, he did not see it as remnants. He saw this as Mahaprashadam of the Lord. So his God got cleansed. And that's it. He became the great Naradaji. That is the power of Vedantist. That's the power of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Narada's life will act as a great inspiration as to how one should carve their own life. After hearing this, you know what we need to do? We have to progress that path. If by means, if we start to commit offenses or be part of it also. What is being part of it? If someone is doing a mistake, okay, I'll just be part of it, but I won't contribute to it. But you will acquire that portion of that mistake. 1/6 of it will come to you. So that's very important to understand. So Narada's progression was one-sided. That means he had only an upward movement in spiritual life. Because he took care of his life, he never had to step down any further. Now this sloka, 5.30, you see how it justifies it. I'll read 5.30. Jnanam guhyatamam yat tat shakshad bhagavatotidam anvochan kamishyantaha kripayadi vatsalaha. As they were leaving, who? The Bhakti Vedantist, who are very kind to poor-hearted souls, instructed me in that most confidential subject, which is instructed by the person of Godhead himself. Now look at it. Lord first instructed this great knowledge to Brahmaji. The same knowledge what Lord instructed Brahmaji is, this Bhakti Vedantists, they instructed Naradaji. So look at his fortune. Look at his Sukriti. And because of that, he understood the most confidential knowledge. Now look at it. What they instructed? They instructed, the Lord is creator, maintainer, annihilator of everything. The whole manifestation creation is existing by his will, and his will, when the whole show is finished, he will remain in the eternal abode with all his paraphernalia. That means, whole show here refers to this Prakriti. At some point in the Prakriti will be destroyed. But he continues to remain in external abode. That means he is not disturbed by the material elements. If we are also traversing this path, remember, we are qualitatively one with the Lord. That means we shall also not be disturbed by the activities in this material plane. We may do course correction, but we cannot get disturbed. That is how we progress in our spiritual life. So the Lord continues to remain in a completely pure transcendental state. That's the kind of teachings that they give. So they establish the supremacy of Lord Krishna in the heart of Naradaji. And that is what made them realize souls, and that's what made Naradaji a great devotee. Okay. Now above this, when it is partially mixed with devotion, what is this partially mixed with devotion? Now in the initial stages, one always thinks The Supreme Creator is equivalent to like a big ocean, like a mountain, like a phenomenally big thing, because that's what they understand. Magnificent thing. Okay, good. After understanding that, what happens? You see, there is no personal aspects of the Lord. It's more impersonal. So that's how they begin their devotional life. They think God is great. That's why they use the word Almighty. What does that word Almighty mean? It tells something, really magnificent, really massive. But it does not give attributes of characteristics about that personality. And that comes the next stage. What is the next stage? Look at this line. First is impersonal Brahman. Above this and partially mixed with devotion. How do you mix something with devotion? First is acquisition of knowledge. Whom are we referring to? That is acquisition of knowledge. When we acquire the right knowledge, then the Brahman concept will slowly change towards personal features of the Lord. That is the Bhagavan concept. See, completely impersonal mixed with devotion reaches this. And for devotion to be mixed to where one becomes a great devotee, the devotion, ingredients of devotion are knowledge, instructions. When knowledge and instructions are heard clearly, then it realizes into Bhagavan. So that's what he says. So this knowledge, he says, was imparted to, Krishna spoke this knowledge to Brahmaji. He spoke this knowledge to Arjun. He spoke this knowledge to Uddhava. He spoke this knowledge to Maitreya Rishi. So like that, you see, many people got direct reception from the Lord. So it's very clear. Dharmam tu shakshat bhagavat pranitam. He is the originator of all these details. So this is the knowledge that the Vedantas gave to Naradaji. Okay. Then apart from giving this knowledge, they also gave the activities in terms of this material world. What is this material world? What will happen here? What will not happen? That also knowledge they gave. Which concluded to Naradaji, hey, this is temporary. This place is temporary. Why am I making permanent plans? Okay, we'll read in this sloka. Yenaivaham bhagavato vasudevasya vedasah mayanubhavam avidam yena gachanti tat padam. Okay. Gachanti here, destination. Gachanti tat padam means they will reach the final, they go to the final place, right? Now, let's see what is the purport, the important here. The living entities serving material are struggling hard for existence and happiness, which is very true. No one can be comfortable in this material life unless they take shelter of Vasudeva. If they understand Vasudeva is everything, if they understand Vasudeva is everything, then they will redirect their life in service of Vasudeva. That is when a person can become happy. The living entities serving in material energy are struggling hard for existence and happiness, which is presented them to as illusion. Because what is illusion here refers to? You can't understand what is the right thing. What is the truth? You will always get confused. That's what illusion causes. It makes us to do the wrong thing. Because we're confused. How, for example, if I give you a set of colors, you may read a red color as blue. You may read blue as green. Because you're illusioned. And accordingly, you will make your decisions. Okay? So now what happens when you understand Vasudeva is everything and come to shelter of Vasudeva? Shelter of Vasudeva is practicing bhakti yoga. Then what happened? The carpet of illusion which was spread over this entire material creation, Vasudeva gives that person who's practicing relief from that carpet of illusion, the trigunas. Now, go back to the story of Dhruva. Okay. Now, let's see what was Dhruva in his consciousness. Dhruva went to the forest with a revengeful attitude against his stepmother Surichi and her son Uttama. One, revengeful attitude. Second, he wanted to accomplish the throne of, he wants to become a king, the throne of Uttanapad. So this was the two things. That means we were completely material in nature. He had hatred, he had control nature. This was Dhruva's consciousness. Okay, then what happened? Naradaji instructed him and then he followed this practice. If Naradaji did not instruct him, Dhruva would have not completed this journey in 6 months. It would have probably taken 60 years or 60,000 years also. See, that is the beauty of a Vaishnava coming in one's life. He makes or accelerate the process of one's to multiply 2 times, 3 times, 4 times like that. So you see this role. Now then what happened to Dhruva? He exactly followed Narada's instruction. Then his journey completed in 6 months. His life of austerity was only for 6 months. In 6 months, the Lord appeared. Now, when the Lord appeared, he was still in material conception of life until Lord appeared. How? In fact, if you read the Bhagavatham, it says, Dhruva meditated on the Paramatma feature of the Lord. Suddenly, the Paramatma feature disappeared from his consciousness. He couldn't see the Paramatma anymore. He opened his eyes. Why? What happened to my meditation? In search of that Paramatma, but who appeared in front of him? The Bhagavan. See, we say, no, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti Shabdeti. That Dhruva realized that 3 steps. Okay. Now, when Lord appeared in front of Dhruva, what happened? Lord touched his head with a conch. When it was touched with the conch, all this carpet of illusion on the material plane vanished, and the chit potency of that soul fully got, shown up. What happened to him? He was in full knowledge, he was in fullest happiness, and all the beauty and the knowledge about the Lord just flowed from his mouth. He compiled slokas and Veda Shastric verses just like that from his mouth and glorified that Lord. See the difference between material influence and spiritual, spiritual influence. That's exactly what he learned from Dhruva. And this is what the Vedantist instruct in Narada Muni with the difference between this and that. Okay, Naradaji is very clear. Okay, so he got elevated. Now, what is Naradaji doing? He is now telling Vyasadeva, okay, let me instruct you what you're supposed to do. So the next few slokas is all about Naradaji's instruction. What is it that he has to write in Srimad Bhagavatam? When Naradaji is instructing Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva is not taking it as a burden. Oh, why is this person instructing me that I have to follow? He saw that as a mercy of the Lord. Vyasadeva, if he had found fault with Narada's instruction, Srimad Bhagavatam would have never manifested. Vyasadeva heartfully accepted, whether it's right or wrong, he accepted instruction of Narada. And hence Bhagavatam manifested. So this is the most important aspect that we have to understand. Zero resistance. Okay, now let's read the next sloka, 532. Yetat samsuchitam brahmans tapa traya chikitsitam yad ishvare bhagavati karma brahmani bhavitam. Okay, so what does Narada Muni says here? O Brahmana Vyasadeva, it is decided by the learned that the best remedial measure for removing all troubles and miseries is to dedicate one's activities to service of Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what he says. That means, what does he say? You may start this practice of devotion. Okay, good. But we have lots of anarthas, lots of feeling of burden, lots of different conclusion, and more important, we have negative behaviors. But once we engage ourselves in service of the Lord, then all these things vanquishes. That's what the first instruction. So you talk about people in the path of devotion engaging themselves in service to the Supreme Lord. Yes, what is instructing Vyasadeva. So now you see, Vyasadev's consciousness is moving from dharmartha kama moksha to details of bhakti yoga, details of pancharatrika vidhis. What he says, Narada Muni personally experienced the most feasible practical ways to open the path of salvation. Salvation is liberation. By just doing service to Lord, all material miseries they vanquish, they go away. Now, some may ask, what Prabhuji, 10 years I'm chanting, nothing is happening in my life. I am not progressing, I'm going down. What is the problem, Prabhu? So that means we may have taken this path in a very conscious state, but we may be doing some mistakes, which we need to heartfully sit with the Vaishnava and discuss with him. That's why Rupa Goswami in his preaching, he says, in the sixth instruction to all of us, he says, one of the most important thing is, a Vaishnava should open his heart and speak, and also be receptive to hear from others in an open heart manner. That is important. Okay? One must dedicate everything in service of the Lord. If one is a learned scholar, scientist, philosopher, poet, then it should employ his learning to establish the supremacy of the Lord. What does this mean? It means that we may have lots of material talent. One may be a skilled car driver, one may be a skilled musician, one may be a skilled technocrat, one may be a skilled militaristan, no problem. If you can use your skill in service of the Lord, one is to please him and establish his supremacy. If you do both, then you see life is perfect. That's what it says. That means he concludes by saying, use your material opulence in service of Krishna. Okay, so we have this famous sloka from Bhagavad Gita, right? What is that? Yat karoshi, yat dashnashi, yat juhoshi, yat dadadi, yat tapashasya kaunteya, tat kurusha matarpanam. Use our material possessions, including us, in service of Keshava, Arpanam. Then it becomes perfect, right? So the example Prabhupada quotes is Arjuna. Arjuna had his own plans and desire about the war. But when he realized, he said, okay, it is not about my plans and desire. It is about how do I please you. You are pleased when if I fight the war, then I'll fight the war. That's it. He did not become a scholarly person. He did not follow Veda Shastra. He said, you are beyond Veda Shastra. So I'll become your man. I am a Krishna's man now. Okay, that's what we have to do. Okay, 33. Amayo yascha bhutanam jayate yena subrata tad eva hi amayan dravyam na punati chikitsitam. So what does this sloka refers to here? It says, an expert, O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by the very same thing? So the best thing that you can understand is a person is having lactic problem. So there is a bacteria in milk which is called lactobacillus. Now some of us have developed zero reaction or negative reaction towards that. That means the bacteria in the stomach is that one does the digestion. But this lactobacillus is not suitable for someone. So he is not supposed to drink milk. If he drinks milk, you see that he will have some reactions in the stomach, wrong bowel movements, and things like that. So what solution he can do? Prabhupada says, convert that milk into curd. That means the milk is administered in a different format. That's what it means. So, if there is a problem in someone practicing changing his life on spiritual life due to whatever understanding he has, administer the same thing in an indirect manner. Okay? So, in our Krishna conscious life, we have two manners, direct and indirect. Direct manner is what? Okay, read Bhakti Shastri, not Bhakti Shastri, read Shastric injunctions. Read scriptures, attend classes. That is direct methods. Okay, what are indirect methods? Prabhuji, don't do all these things. Come and eat nice prasadam. Come, don't do all these things. Come, we'll dance. Because Gauranga told, nicely sing and dance. You're going to party and dance. No, dance here for Gauranga. So these are indirect methods. So you see, the milk has to be administered for one's nourishment and protein and all those things. But how you administer is important. That's what Naradaji is instructing. So hence, Vyasdeva was getting the clue. Okay, I got the point. So use everything in relation of the Supreme Personal Godhead and makes one's life perfect. Right? So this is the key understanding of this sloka 33. Now let's go to 34. Evam nirnam kriya yogaha sarve samsriti hetavaha ta evatma vinashaya kalpante kalpita pare. Thus, when all man's activities are dedicated to service of the Lord, those very activities which cause perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work. Okay. So I'll just show you this banyan tree. This is something very interesting, actually. Okay, now let's look at this sloka, this banyan tree. Can you see this? The tree had only one stem. The first banyan tree had only one trunk. And there were branches like this. Maybe I'll make this bigger. Okay. So the banyan tree initially had what? One trunk and set of roots and branches and leaves. That's all. Now, what did this banyan tree do? As it grew in time, it starts to produce many roots. You see, many roots are getting formed from these branches, and these roots are getting grounded. That means in our material life, as we progress in time, due to our actions, consciousness, we create new bondage to this material world. And we continue to remain here. So, very important to understand this. So now what we can do? What Shastra is referring to us? Okay, you may have many more activities that you're doing as you grow up in your age, but relate that activity in service of the Lord. Then these roots which are being now grounded will never get grounded. It means you will be detached. You may be present in the material world, but you'll be detached to your activities. That is perfect stage for liberation. Okay. So the conclusion is that all fruitive work, when dovetailed with service of the Lord, it will cease to generate further karma. No more karma. That means no more bondage to this material world. And will gradually develop into transcendental living service, which will not only cut off the root of the banyan tree of work, but will also carry the performer to the lotus feet of the Lord. Otherwise, you will become strong-rooted like the banyan tree. Live here eternally. But bhakti cuts those roots that God produced again in the course of your duty of life and free us for liberation. Look at how brilliant Naradaji is instructing Vyasdeva. Okay, now let's look at 35. Yadatra kriyate karma bhagavat paritoshanam jnanam yattad adinam hi bhakti yoga samanvitam. So what does this sloka says? Whatever work done in this life for the satisfaction of mission of the Lord is called Bhakti Yoga. Because you love your Supreme Lord, you want to please Him, you want to ensure that all activities that you're doing causes great pleasure to the Lord. He says, those activities are called Bhakti Yoga. What is Bhakti Yoga? Bhakti Yoga means connecting with the Lord with love. If I do an activity that pleases Him, that is called Bhakti Yoga. That's it. He says, that is the topmost yoga. In all other yoga, we are the subject matter. Karma Yoga, I want to do this. Jnana Yoga, I want to learn this. Ashtanga Yoga, I'll somehow perform so that, I will get liberated myself. But in Bhakti Yoga, I will do not for me, but for the pleasure of the Lord. You see, this is how Bhakti Yoga stands superior compared to others because it is directly pleasing the Lord. And hence Naradaji says, don't even wait to do any other yogas. Directly perform this activity. Go back to home, back to Godhead. When you perform Bhakti Yoga, everything, all the kalma nashanam, all the anarthas in our heart, they just get vanquished and then we go back home, back to Godhead. Just bring this purification method in your Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Naishkaryam abhi achyuta bhava varjitam. Naishkaryam. Do activities that has no fruitive benefits, detachment. But do as a service to that Achyuta. Achyuta means infallible, one who has not fallen down. Who's that? Lord Krishna. Right? So this is what instructed in 35th sloka. In 36th sloka, now he is now talking about 35th and 36th will talk about the same thing. You do everything in service Lord. In 36 is telling, but when you do, you remember about Lord. The best, there's references, Arjuna. Krishna told Arjuna, you may fire thousands of weapons. You may have got Pashupati weapon from Lord Shiva. You may have got the Indra's thunderbolt. You would have got Brahmastra. You would have got Agniastra. You would have got Astra from Vayu Bhagavan. Yes, these are all great astras that can chase enemies and then kill them. But remember, Arjuna, when you fire this astra, if you don't dovetail and remember me while firing the astra, if the astra has caused 1,000 people to die, the karmic reaction of the 1,000 people will come on to you. Or the astra may not do its job. So what do? You remember me and file that astra, then mission accomplished. So he says, always remember Lord in all parts of your life, in all duties of your life. Whatever activities you're doing. Now, what is the biggest benefit of doing this? Now, let's say I'm cooking for the Lord. If I remember the Lord and cook, Lord is pleased because it is cooked for him. It's not cooked for us. Great. When I'm reading literature, I'm remembering the Lord and reading the literature, then the conclusion of the literature is understood. Else, the literature doesn't go into my head. Okay? So like this, in many good things, we can remember the Lord. Bad things. We have a situation. And in that situation, what are we doing? We are trying to commit offenses. We don't know what to do. We are committing offenses. Or we are showing qualities of aggression, anger, and all those things. So what do we need to do? When we dovetail that situation also with the Lord, then what happens? Ultimately, the anger and all these things starts to come down. You see, there are many, many pastimes with Prabhupada also about anger. Right? Today, I wrote one article in your Pracharaneti about anger management. What is anger? How does it manifest? How Lord Shiva is connected to it. And I gave the example of Parikshit Maharaj also in the post in WhatsApp that I did. Now, let's look at how Parikshit Maharaj managed anger. Okay. Now, Parikshit Maharaj committed a mistake. He repented for his mistake. Okay, good. Now, what happened next? The Brahmana boy cursed with anger. Action with anger causes devastation. Parikshit Maharaj was angry with Shamikarisi. He put the snake. It cost us his own life. The Brahmana boy cursed Parikshit Maharaj back with anger. It costed the entire race of Brahmanas to fall down. See, anger causes great pain. We saw anger with Durvasana. How it has caused pain with so many people. Right? Now, but when that same anger is dovetailed to Krishna, it becomes blessed. The best is Bhishmadev. Right? And here this greatest pastime of Bhishmadev taking the wheel. And where Krishna says, I want to see this anger in Virya Rasa, and thank you for demonstrating it. So, it is very important that we dovetail every of this in remembrance of Krishna. Then they just vanish away. That's what Naradaji is instructing. Okay. Lord Chaitanya has taught us a very simple method in this connection. He has taught the lesson for preaching the transcendental message through singing, dancing, and refreshment. Just do this. Anyway, you're going to go to dance, anyway, you're going to eat, anyway, you're going to do this. Come do that dancing and eating and practicing, singing, all these things for pleasure of Gauranga. Your life has changed. That's what he says, application. Okay, now let's look at the next sloka, 5.37. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumna Aniruddhaya Namaha Krishnaya Cha. Let us all chant the glories of Vasudeva along with his plenary expansion, Pradyumna Aniruddha and Shankarshana. So if you read the purport, you will see that the description of the position of Pradyumna, position of Aniruddha, position of Vasudeva, all those descriptions have been put. Right? So now what it says is, when we understand the positions of the Lord from various aspects of spiritual plane, then we will see we get what is called prema, love for that Lord. In different transcendental variegations called rasas. That means the Lord will make us to establish and enjoy all the 5 and the 7, totally 12 rasas of the Lord. We thereby not just practice devotion in a dry format, but we will execute devotion with the exchange of rasas that will make us more blissful and happy in whatever we're doing. So this will remove all anarthas in our heart. So he is explaining the position of Vishnu, how Vishnu expands, how Krishna expands into these forms and performs the leelas. Right? So this is more about, this purport is about all that only. Okay. Now let's read 538. Iti murti abhidhanena mantra murtim amurtikam yajate yajna purusham sa samyak darshana puman. Thus he is the actual seer who worships in the form of transcendental sound representation, the Supreme Personal Godhead, Vishnu, who has no material form. So, when we see that the Lord Krishna can be attained by Bhakti Yoga practice, he is recommending the sound as the most ideal method to reach him. When he has no material form means he has only got spiritual form. The Lord is fully transcendental. That's what it means. So, if a sound can reach the transcendental form of the Lord, fully spiritual form of the Lord, that means the sound also cannot be material. That's the point here. Now, what's the meaning of sound not being material? For example, when I say Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, when I say all these things, it means that they may have local Sanskrit words, but their transcendental nature, because these words can connect you to that Supreme Lord Vasudeva. So hence, Narada Muni is recommending, O Vyasa, please bring about the glories of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, by which one can connect being on the material plane to that spiritual plane by that sound vibration. That is the conclusion of this particular sloka. So now you see, the Lord is sitting somewhere in the transcendental plane, the spiritual planets. We are sitting in the material world. The way to communicate from here to that Vaikuntha planets, Naradaji is saying, it is that sound that will take you there. So now, we pronounce the names of the Lord, which is called Kirtanam. By reciting the names of the Lord, we are able to connect. The yoga process of the Lord is established. And that is the power of the sound. So he says, establish Nama Sankirtan. So, by Nama Sankirtan, how powerful it is anyone in this material plane can recite these words, and by reciting these words, they can get connected to the spiritually situated Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you see the beauty of sound vibration. And that's what he establishes. He calls them as codes. He calls this as authorized codes to transcendental understanding. Now, when you use the sound incarnation, when you use sound as a method to connect to that Supreme Lord, the Lord reciprocates back to you. What does he reciprocate? The first thing he reciprocates with the knowledge. What knowledge? Knowledge called realization in your heart. The Lord reveals, this is what I am. These are my activities. These are the goals of life. This is called Manusha Dharma. This is what you're supposed to do. The Lord reciprocates with all these factors. And when one realizes, the quality of a sound vibration increases further, and it goes on forever until he reaches the spiritual world. This is the whole concept. Now go back to creation. Canto 3 of Srimad Bhagavatam. What does it say? It says, it is from sound the entire creation came. From sound, you can see formation of ether. From ether, like that, you see Bhagavatam fully explains from sound all the way till the gross elements manifestation. Step by step, including ahankar. Right? Then we can understand the media of this powerful sound. Sound is the most powerful element in this creation. Such sound should be received from transparent agency of one of its spiritual master. And that is what we call as initiation. Right? So in Harinam initiation, what happens? Yes, Hare Krishna mantra is played in loudspeakers in some public party also, in your cassettes also. But that is not your spiritual initiation. When that sound vibration is heard from a Vedantist mouth, then that causes transcendental state in your heart. Now, what did the Vedantists do? The Vedantists spoke the yogic shastras to Dhruva Maharaj, not so Narada Muni. Narada Muni became realized and he became a great devotee. See, that is the power of sound. So hence, we should hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we should hear the Harinam glories, we should recite them. That makes it perfect. And it says, bring that out in your Srimad Bhagavatam. Hence, you see, all these qualities have been manifested in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, 39. Imam swa nigamam brahman avetya mat anushtitam adanme jnana aishwaryam swasvin bhavam chakeshava. O Brahmana, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna has endowed first with transcendental knowledge of the Lord, as inculcated in the conferential parts of the Vedas, and then with the spiritual opulences, and then with his intimate loving service. You see what happens to that sound. So once the sound came, all the kleshas went away. The purity of consciousness evolved. Once the purity of consciousness evolved, one has more enthusiasm to do more service. One has more enthusiasm to associate with devotees. One has more enthusiasm to do the right things. That is called spiritual opulence. If it is festival, you want to do big festivals. Enjoy. If it is service to the Lord, take it up. Why? The first step of sound incarnation, that leads to spiritual opulence. That means all these activities. You get so much of enthusiasm to hear, so much of enthusiasm to serve. Then with spiritual opulence, what happens finally? He says you will get love of Krishna. One will get love of Krishna. Just like how Dhruva saw Krishna Garbha, you will see Lord Krishna in your life. And that is called perfection. He says, bring that out in Srimad Bhagavatam. You please bring the methods, the application, and how do we do it with examples and stories. You bring them in Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what Narada's instruction to Vyasdeva. Right? So, we can take all these things. And how did Vyasdeva bring it out? He did not bring it out as a message by himself. He brought it as the instructions from Parampara, various realized souls. He brought these instructions through the great devotee's action. And thus, Bhagavatam got enriched with so much of brilliant illustrations and narrations. So look at the plan of the Lord. Okay, so chapter 5, text 40, which is his last sloka. Tvam api adabrashruta vishrutam vibhuh samapyate yena vidam bhubhustitam bhubhutsitam prakya hi dukhair muhur ardhitatmanam sanklesha nirvanam ushanti nanyata. Please, therefore, describe Almighty Lord's activities which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy all the despondency that you have and the hankerings of the great learned man. At the same time, mitigate miseries of these masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get rid of such miseries. So, Naradaji is clearly telling the Prakriti is created to inflict difficulty. Krishna says this Prakriti is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. So that means there will be miseries in this material world. There is no happiness in this material. But when these miseries are inflicted on people, suffer. But when the suffering people, when they take up the Srimad Bhagavatam, they'll find their way out of sufferings. Please give this, that. That means Narada is telling Vyasdev, as Vaishnavas, let us all become the greatest well-wishers of the living entities in this material world. So, Srimad Bhagavatam manifested. And it manifested with such content. And this content is what we have to work on to realize. So now from here on, when you read the other chapters, you will see all these principles of Srimad Bhagavatam are continuously being established and taught to us with examples, with Vedic references, revelations from Parampara and realized souls, and commentaries from other acharyas. All these things compiled together makes it as nectar of nectar of nectar. That is his Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? So we can end, we have successfully completed chapter 5. What we will do is now, we will do a quick exercise where we can understand what all we read so far. Okay? So I'll just take a Word document and I'll just type whatever. Now, I want you to speak now. Okay? I want all of you to speak. Just a 10 minutes exercise, not even more than that. Okay? And you can also ask questions while you are going to recite.
Prabhu, you said the spiritual opulence happens when we think about making things for Lord Krishna in a big way. So that is when the love of Godhead happens to us. So so we can conclude this particular point as prayojana, Prabhu. Sambandha abhideya prayojana.
Yeah, same.
Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay. This has much more vivid descriptions. But to understand from this point is similarities. Yes. Similar lines of thought process.
Okay, Prabhu. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
So, are we clear about the chapter 5? So, can we write down what all we learned in chapter 5? Okay. So, what's the first topic we learned in chapter 5? So, before that, what we'll do is topics covered so far. So, we'll write this in a very high level. Okay, what is the first one? Establishing.
Prabhu, we are not seeing anything, Prabhu. Only the shlokas.
Not seeing. I'm sorry. Wait. Okay. So now this is what it is. Okay. So first is establishing why Bhagavatam. I'll just say SB. Okay. So we did this. Okay, great. Dharma, Projita, Kaitavo, Nigama, Kalpataro, Galitam, all these things, right? We saw all those things. Okay. Then what we did? We established the qualities, attendees, right? Naimisharina rishis. What are they called? Are they eligible recipients of this. Okay, good. Then we established the qualities of the speaker, right? Come on, I want you to speak. I'm just triggering the first few. The next you have to speak and tell me. We established the quality of speaker. Who's the speaker?
Narada Muni, Prabhu.
No.
Shukadeva.
Huh?
Shukadeva.
No, Suta Goswami.
Sutava. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, after establishing the quality of speaker, then quality of speaker means all. His lineage, he's son of Romaharshana Rishi, he is so and so, he's so and so, all established. Okay, then how did Bhagavatam start? Then what happened?
By asking the Parikshit Maharaj questions.
Before that, what all got established?
What is the purpose?
Huh?
What is the
So the 6 questions of sages, correct?
yes.
Okay, great. So 6 questions of sages that were asked. You all remember the 6 questions? All of you?
What is the good for the people? What is the essence of the
What is good for people? Excellent. Then,
what is the essence of the scripture?
what is the essence of scriptures? Correct.
Who compiled Bhagavatam?
How the Lord took birth in the womb of Devaki and Vasudeva.
Astonishing facts.
Yeah.
Actually, Supreme Lord being born in the
Womb
of Devaki. Okay, great. Then?
And what are the Purushatars? What is the Purusha?
Okay. Purusha avatars and activities, right?
Leela Avataras.
Leela avatars.
Okay, great. You missed one point. Which is that?
What is the religiosity?
What is religiosity? Perfect. Okay. So what is religiosity? And
What is the purpose of this birth?
no, what is religiosity and where did it take shelter?
Yeah, that is purpose of life.
Okay, very good. So you got the essence now. Okay, then after this, what did it establish? What got established?
The Vedas got bifurcated.
No. Before that. Established who is Vyasdev, right?
Yeah, who is Vasudev and what inspired him to
No. And his qualities.
his qualities? Yes.
Qualities and his activities. Okay. So here, what happened? How he wrote Vedic literature. Correct? How he wrote all the Vedic literature. That's what we are in now. He converted one Veda into 4 Vedas, then he had many disciples, then his grand disciples. So we read all those things. And then how each of this Veda Shastra got expanded and how the lineage, many devotees contributing to it. Right? We learned about Upanishads, how they manifested. We'll all learn all these things. Okay, great. How he wrote Vedic literature and the lineage. Okay, very good.
Shukadeva Goswami.
Now here some more is required, no? One more point about Vyasdev. Okay, Vyasdev quality is already covered here. Okay, good. So this is done. Then glories of
Shukadeva Goswami.
But he was not happy, no, Prabhu. Because of that.
Now we will actually what will happen? We will first establish Shukadeva Goswami as a speaker to Parikshit. Then we'll come back to that despondency.
And Parikshit Maharaj's inquiries.
Okay. How many questions he asked?
There was 6 questions.
Hey, you're increasing more. 4. Okay, good. Then Parikshit Maharaj, because Sukadeva Goswami's glories of Sukadeva Goswami and his life,
Renunciation.
and his life and activities. Okay, so we established this. Great. Then Parikshit Maharaj inquiry, and
And Parikshit Maharaj's renunciation, how he could renunciate.
okay, so that was only briefly described. Okay, so then I will say a brief Parikshit Maharaj. Now, but we will be discussing life of Parikshit Maharaj in more detail in the next subsequent chapters. Okay, now Vasudeva's unhappiness. Vasudeva despondency.
Despondence.
So in despondency, what comes?
Narada Muni recognizing that despondency of telling that there was no glories of Lord was not described.
Happiness. So Narada ji comes and inquires and makes him think as to why he is unhappy. See, this is a great realization. So, for example, even in our material life, no, you see there are many paths to religion. Okay, and many religions also. Then within religion, sub-religion. For example, you just take Mohammedan alone. There are many sub-religions. You take Christianity, many sub-religion. You take this Dharma, Bhagavatham Dharma we're talking, many sub-religions, caste, everything, so much has evolved. But you see, even though so many religions have been evolved, hundreds and thousands of it, and people are doing many activities, you see they're not happy. So similarly, when the right thing is not done, happiness will never come. That's what Naradaji is telling, why he is unhappy. Okay, great. Then after Naradaji comes and inquires why he is unhappy, then what happens? Then what happens? That is now in chapter 5, correct?
Yeah, now the chapter 5 starts.
This chapter 5. Okay, great. So now this chapter 5. So in chapter 5, what all topics we cover?
Appearance of Narada.
So Narada inquires for details of Vyasa's work. Okay. After he inquires, what does he do? He's making him to think. See, you've done so much work, but in none of your work you described activities of the Lord, correct?
Prabhu, he mentions that you have mentioned about the Purusharthas, but the real thing, essence is not there.
Yeah, this is what it is. See, Narada encouraged your work. This work is the Purusharthas.
Okay, Prabhu.
This is the one. Artha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. You only focused on that. So, Narada made Vyasadeva to think about direct glorification of Lord and his activities. Okay, correct? Are we so far right?
Prabhu.
Okay, then what we learn in chapter 4? So in direct glorification of the Lord, he talked about various activities of the Lord, right? Then he talked about the bhakti stages, starting with Shraddha all the way till Krishna Prema, Anartha Nivarti, Nishta, all those things he talked about. Okay. Then what else he talked about?
Talked about how Narada Muni has his previous birth and how he transformed.
Correct. So setting an example. Narada setting an example. Hey, what all others are silent? You should participate. If you don't participate, how will you learn? Please contribute. Okay, Narada setting example of how to lead a life by his own example. Okay, so narrations of his own life. So we read that, right? We read the entire story. He served with us and all these things. Then finally, what's the last one he did?
So from 30 onwards, so continuously we understand, only the devotional service.
Instruction to Vyasdev. How he has to compel. Okay.
Yeah. And emphasis on the sound form of worship.
Yeah, that's all part of his instruction. Instruction to Vyasadev on what should be the topics or contents of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? See, this is what happened. Now you see the flow, very brilliant. How Bhagavatam is taken. I'll just run this as a summary for all of you. Okay? First is establishing why Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So that's what you have now. Janmadi Ashyataha, Dharma Kaitavo. Then we have Nigama Kalpatara or Galitam Phalam. So all these things establishes what is Bhagavatam. This is like your preface when you read a book. Right? You got that. Then, who all these attendees? You heard all these ordinary people, drunkards, thieves, or materialists. Who are these people? No,
They're all
they're like saints. Okay? So, audience are also great. Then, Sudha Goswami. Sudha Goswami is speaking now in Kali Yuga. Okay? But Sudha Goswami, as a parampara and a student who heard this, is coming and speaking. So, who is this Sudha Goswami? Is he authorized to speak Srimad Bhagavatam? Will he change Bhagavatam as it is to his own, tweaks and things? No, qualities. Then, when the speaker and the attendees are fixed, then 6 questions were asked by the sages. So, we discussed all of them. Then came, who's author of this book? Okay, you told that the religiosity took shelter of Krishna, who is now the ultimate religion. So, we have to take shelter of religiosity. So, they said, who wrote this book? Then, Vyasdev. Right? So, then when we talk about Vyasdev, we talk about all his works, what all work he has done, the quality of his disciples, so much. Then you'll know, okay, what an author he is. He's not an ordinary author. He's to be worshipped like God. Right? So, that established the position of Vyasdev. Then, come to the real personality who really spoke Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So, why? Who is he? So, that Parikshit, Sukadeva Goswami, and what led to that? All these things are life and activities. Then, the 4 questions by Parikshit Maharaj. Okay. Then, we talked about Vyasdev, even though he is such a great person, even though so much literature he done, so much he did, why he is unhappy? You ask the same question. Hey, I am so wealthy, I am so knowledgeable, I am so intelligent, I have so many people working for me, I am very powerful, everything. What still why I am suffering in this world? That's a question we have to ask. Right? The same thing is Vyasdev despondency. So Naradaji comes and comes. The only reason you are unhappy is because you went into a direction of, business. What is business? Do an activity, get result. Do activity, get result. Do activity, get result. Right? That's what we do in business, no? Do a transaction, make money. So he said you went into that mode. No, that's not the solution. You have to go to a solution where you connect all these people to that Supreme Lord. If you want to connect these people to Supreme Lord, what you have to do? You have to first tell who's this Lord? What sort of qualities he's got? How powerful he is? How great he is? How personal he is? So establish that. Like that, he gave beautiful instruction. Okay? And that led to the work of. Okay. So does this summarize so far?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
So we are clear with the flow, right?
Prabhu, you can just post it in the group, Prabhu.
No, I'm just thinking because Pawan Prabhu does posting of this in various groups. Which group to post? I'm thinking.
Shubhodaya, Prabhu.
Huh?
Shubhodaya.
What is Shubhodaya?
It's morning sessions, Prabhu.
Do we have a group like that?
Yeah.
Okay. It is a WhatsApp group, huh?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so then I will ask him to see if we can post it there.
Thank
Hmm?
you. Yes.
Okay, so Are you feeling that you're getting connected? Are you feeling you're learning this?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
What about others? Others?
It's become a refresher, Prabhu. Like,
Okay. So now if you know this flow, when you speak to others, you can easily relate. How Canto 1 evolved, how Canto 2 evolved, how Canto 3 evolved. Very, very systematic it is.
Prabhu, one more last sentence you could have added, no, Prabhu, that for our spiritual progress, not only knowledge is important, the instructions also has to be followed.
Yeah, that is all in the contents here. When we say instruction to Vyasadeva,
Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
yeah, this is from Sloka 1.5.31 to 1.5.40.
Okay.
So if you read these slokas, you will get all of them.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu.
So thank you for all your wonderful association. Today we have a great program in Ayam Hall. So many devotees are working together to make this happen.
yes.
So I request all of you to please come and do your seva and support this so that we can expand and grow very nicely.
Prabhu, one question, Prabhu.
Ah.
This Narsimha Kavacham we are reciting 108 times.
No, Narsimha Kavacham nahi, Ugram Viram.
As a Ugram Viram, Prabhu, Ugram Viram. So can we use the same beats what we are using for our
Yeah. Same beats.
efforts? Okay.
Same beats you can chant Ugram Viram.
And in the process, Prabhu, when we are reciting, we immediately shift to
Harinam.
Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hey, this happened to me twice yesterday. I chanted 15-20 times and then without my knowledge, I'm chanting Hare Krishna Mantra. I said, when did I change this? That happened twice to me. I was also wondering why this is happening.
That is the reason why I asked you, Prabhu, whether should we use the same beats or not.
If you don't want to use the same beats, you can use the clicker, no problem.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Prabhu. I thought probably this change is happening because of this. So we are using these beats for that. So that's why.
True. Okay, we'll end the class. Thank you for all wonderful association.
Thank you.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gurudev ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanand. Kripa Sindhu Pavane Pyo Vaishnav Namo Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Vaishnava Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Tat Sat.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.